my pleasure to introduce myself. I'm Shanthi, Assistant Professor, Department of English, K.B.N College. Now I'm going to give a description on the lesson. An Astrologer's Day was being created by K.B.N, the writer. Here is a smart description on that. Let us have the lesson. It is the lesson being prescribed for the degree first year, second semester students. The title of the lesson is An Astrologer's Day. Look at the author, right? K.B.N in full form, Rasipuram Krishnaswamy Narayan, who is an Indian writer who writes in English. Right. The theme of the lesson is fate. About the author. K.B.N is one of the best known of Indian English writers. His writings show us simplicity and humor. He created the fictional world of Malgudi, a winner of the Sahitya Akademi Award in the year 1960 and the Padma Bhushan Award in the year 2000. His novel The Guide has been made into a popular film which was released in the year 1958. Here is a Bharat India stamp named by K.B.N. It's such a great honor that Indian government has given to a writer like K.B.N. Now let's come to talk about the story. Right. An Astrologer's Day deals with a single day's events of a normal astrologer's life. It shows how a person maintains his livelihood for bread and butter. It takes the reader to a thriller world of a while. It takes the reader to a thriller, a world. It takes the reader to a thriller world for a while. This story reveals how he smoothly deals an issue with a smart brain. I repeat, the story reveals how the writer smoothly deals an issue with a smart brain. Now, an astrologer's paradness. Let us see. An astrologer lays out his tools of the trade, a mix of cowrie shells, obscure charts, a notebook, and other such curios. The astrologer has also painted his forehead with a sacred ash, wrapped his head in a turban, and seated himself and his gear beneath a large tree. All of these things serve to give him an air of wisdom, transcendence, and prophetic power. Though the narrator is quick to point out that none of these qualities actually belong to the man. Setting of the story. The astrologer began his little shop amid a busy marketplace at the auctioning of low quality clothes. The marketplace is lit by various shop lights and flares, the dancing shows of which enhance the astrologer's mystical quality indeed. He notably has no light of his own, but simply borrows that of the other vendors. The lifestyle of an astrologer. The astrologer never thought of becoming an astrologer, but he was forced to live his to leave his ancestral home and travel several hundred miles away with no plans and no money. I just want to repeat the sentence again. But the astrologer was forced to leave his ancestral home and travel several hundreds of miles away with no plans and no money. He can easily convince the people. He gives vague but comforting advice to people in the market in the guise of an astrologer. Though it is not an honest living that the astrologer makes, it is still a well learned in fact. An astrologer's challenge. When it became dark, a stranger appears before him. The astrologer invites him to sit and chat to use the opportunity. The stranger had some questions with him. The stranger makes a challenge with the astrologer. If he says wrong, he must return Anna with interest. The astrologer can't convince the stranger. He became angry that the astrologer cannot tell him anything true or worthwhile. When the stranger lights a cigar, the astrologer catches a brief glimpse of the man's face and is filled with a fear. He tries to get out of the challenge, but the stranger holds him to it and will not let him leave. Now the astrologers convince. The stranger asked him that he succeeds in his search or not. Then astrologer expects 1 rupee from the stranger to open his mouth. The stranger agrees the deal. He reveals that the stranger was once stabbed through the chest and left for dead. Now the stranger is here searching for taking revenge against the man who stabbed him in the past. He even reveals his name as Guru Nayak. Guru Nayak's revenge. Guru Nayak is greatly excited by all of this, believing the astrologer to truly be all-knowing. He presses the astrologer for the whereabouts of the man who stabbed him so that he can take his revenge. The astrologer tells him that he died several months ago, crushed by a lorry. Guru Nayak is frustrated by this, but satisfied that at least his attacker died anyhow. He gives the astrologer his money and leaves. Now, astrologers reveal. What does he reveal? Let us see. The astrologer arrives home late at night and shows his wife the money he has made. She said, "What?" in a surprised tone. He said that it is not quite as much as promised. Even so, his wife is thrilled. As they lie down to sleep, the astrologer reveals to his wife that a great burden has been lifted off his shoulders today. Right, the sound slave of the astrologer. Years ago, the astrologer was the one to stab Guru Nayak and leaves him for death. He was forced him to flee his home and make a new life as fraudulent astrologer. He had thought himself to be a murderer, but was now content that he had not in fact taken a life. Satisfied by this, he goes to sleep. That is how he met his sound sleep with a burden free heart. Thank you.